Chapter 1. The Sunny Morning at the River Cabin. On a sunny morning in the countryside, where the murmur of the river and the mist-covered mountains created an atmosphere of peace, Ernesto lay in his bed inside a large, two-story wooden cabin. His big, gray beard, mostly white, gave him an air of wisdom. Yellow flowers rested on a nearby table. From the second-floor window, the full landscape could be appreciated, while the bedroom, located on this level, offered a privileged view of the serene surroundings. The sound of music coming from the first floor finally pulled him from his sleep. With a stretch and a yawn, Ernesto got out of bed. His eyes fell on his old golden heart-shaped locket with a key, which he placed around his neck, followed by his wedding ring. An old photograph of him and his former gang from Hogwarts during their graduation caught his attention before he dressed in a white shirt and descended the stairs to discover the origin of the music. In the dining room of the house, he found his wife Penny, already having breakfast. He greeted her with a kiss on the cheek, accompanied by a sarcastic question about why she hadn't woken him. Penny explained that she didn't want to disturb him, considering all the work they had done the previous day. Ernesto's curiosity then turned to the music, and Penny pointed to a closed room. Ernesto then said to himself,
"Oh, of course. It must be him."
With a turn of the knob, Ernesto opened the door and found a young man with short blonde hair, blue eyes, and fair skin, about 25 years old, engrossed in the music coming from his guitar. This was Rowan, his son. Ernesto couldn't help a note of sarcasm in his tone as he addressed him.
"Son, should you be playing that guitar so loudly this early? You just woke up your old man,"
said Ernesto, a playful smile dancing on his lips. Rowan, without stopping his playing, responded,
"You should be grateful, Dad. If it weren't for me, you'd still be sleeping. Your alarm clock doesn't work, and besides, I'm improving."
Ernesto couldn't help a soft laugh at his son's response.
"Is it not working again? This is the last time I buy Muggle objects. Anyway, why don't you join us, son? Have breakfast, get ready, and then help us in the shop. We have a lot to do today."
Rowan, however, had other plans in mind.
Dad, I helped a lot in the shop yesterday. It was the busiest day I've seen so far, and we broke the sales record. Today I wanted to rest, and I've already planned a date with Lyra.
Rowan complained, showing his disagreement with the idea of working again. Ernesto reflected for a moment before responding.
"I know, son. ENP Potions is booming, and your help was invaluable yesterday. However, today I sense there will be even more customers, especially since it's almost September 1st, the start of a new school year at Hogwarts. There will be many students looking for potion recipe books, as well as potions themselves. Please, Rowan, perhaps you could tell Lyra to postpone the date until tomorrow. If she doesn't have her mother's same bad temper, she'll understand,"
Ernesto suggested, hoping to persuade his son. After weighing his father's proposal, Rowan finally relented and agreed to postpone the date. He promised to send an owl to Lyra to explain the situation and arrange a new meeting. Ernesto smiled, satisfied with the outcome, and with a welcoming gesture, invited his son to join them at the breakfast table.
"After breakfast, and since it's still early, would you mind playing some music for us, Rowan? I'd love to hear how much you've improved."
Ernesto requested, his tone now full of curiosity and paternal pride. After finishing breakfast and listening proudly to Rowan's musical notes, the family prepared for another arduous day at the shop. They then traveled, all holding hands, through the flume network from their cabin and arrived at Diagon Alley, where their shop was located. E&P Potions was much more than a simple shop in Diagon Alley. It was a haven of magic and knowledge, a place where the aromas of exotic ingredients mingled with the spark of curiosity in the customer's eyes. The exterior of the shop was decorated with magical vines that glowed with tiny lights, guiding customers to the wooden door. Next to the main entrance, the shop's logo captured the attention of everyone passing by. It was an enchanted work of art, where the letters of the name E&P Potions glimmered and changed color in a constant dance of magic. Upon entering, the atmosphere was cozy and warm, illuminated by oil lamps hanging from the ceiling, casting golden glimmers that danced on the stone walls. Dark wooden shelves were filled to the brim with glass jars of all shapes and sizes, each containing a magical liquid or powder. Some jars glowed with bright colors, while others emitted light bursts that seemed to hold stars trapped inside. Meticulously handwritten labels described the names and properties of the ingredients, from bat wings to mandrake root powder. In one corner, a special section dedicated to potion books was carefully organized. The books offered insight into the world of alchemy and potion magic. Some were open, showing pages full of annotations and detailed diagrams, while others remained closed, waiting to be discovered by the curious. Ascending a hand-carved wooden staircase, customers found themselves immersed in a world of artifacts and statues that seemed to come to life in the dim light filtering through the windows. In the center of the second floor, a golden statue of an embracing couple was the focal point, surrounded by a pink mist that seemed to dance with the light. There were various sections with shelves full of potion vials, along with a section dedicated to cauldrons of different qualities and materials, from the most basic iron ones to the finest polished silver. Some cauldrons were decorated with ancient runic inscriptions, while others shone with a magical luster that promised better quality in potion preparation. Upon arriving at the shop, Ernesto meticulously arranged the shelves, ensuring that each ingredient and potion vial was in its proper place. Penny, her slightly graying blonde hair tied in elegant braids, organized the books, making sure each was in perfect condition for the customers. Meanwhile, Rowan took a brief moment to tune his guitar in a corner, enjoying the brief tranquility before the shop filled with visitors. Suddenly, the sound of a knock at the front door interrupted the family's tasks. Ernesto hurried to open it, revealing a group of witches and wizards already waiting outside, mostly young students eager to stock up on supplies for the new school year at Hogwarts. Ernesto opened the door with a welcoming gesture, greeting the young students with a smile. The students entered the shop, their eyes gleaming as they explored the shelves filled with sparkling ingredients and jars of glowing liquids. Some paused to leaf through ancient recipe books, while others hurried to find the essentials for their classes. The murmur of their voices filled the air, mingling with the soft rustle of parchment and the turning of pages, while the sound of their footsteps echoed like raindrops on the roof during a storm. Penny approached one of the students, a young witch with a bag slung over her shoulder.
Do you need help with anything, dear?
Penny asked, offering a warm smile. The young witch nodded eagerly.
Yes, I'm looking for the ingredients for the polyjuice potion. Can you show me where they are?
She asked, with a determined gleam in her eyes. Penny nodded and led her through the shelves, pointing out the necessary ingredients and offering helpful tips on how to properly prepare the potion. Meanwhile, Ernesto approached a group of students, examining a collection of advanced potion books.
Are you interested in potion books?
Ernesto asked, leaning forward with interest. One of the students, a young wizard, nodded excitedly.
Yes, we're looking for books to help with our classes at Hogwarts this year. Do you have anything on the selective memory potion?
He asked with a gleam of anticipation in his eyes. Ernesto smiled and showed them a selection of books on the topic, explaining the different techniques and recipes each contained. Meanwhile, on the second floor, Rowan approached a group of students admiring a delicate golden statue of an embracing couple. A pink mist emanated from the statue, forming a heart around them. With a jovial smile, Rowan noted the students' interest in Amortentia.
I see you're intrigued by Amortentia, right?
He asked enthusiastically. The students nodded excitedly and asked for more information about it. Rowan briefly explained that it was the most powerful love potion known, capable of inducing a strong infatuation or obsession in whoever drank it. The students exchanged playful looks and asked Rowan if they had Amortentia in stock. However, Ernesto, who was passing by, overheard the conversation and kindly interrupted.
Sorry, kids, but Amortentia isn't sold to underage people without approval or the accompaniment of an adult. The potion is powerful and very dangerous. It's dangerous to underestimate a strong infatuation, plus it doesn't create real love.
The students, visibly disappointed, nodded, but thanked Ernesto for the warning. Rowan offered them a sympathetic smile before suggesting some books on less dangerous but equally interesting potions. As the day progressed, the shop became increasingly crowded with customers, all eager to prepare for the new school year at Hogwarts. Ernesto, Penny, and Rowan worked tirelessly to attend to everyone, offering their expertise and knowledge to help the students find exactly what they needed. Meanwhile, the atmosphere in the shop was filled with excitement and anticipation, with the sounds of laughter and conversations filling the air. The students shared stories about their summer vacations and their expectations for the new school year. As the sun began to set on the horizon, signaling the end of another busy day at E&P Potions, the family retreated to their river cabin with a sense of satisfaction and gratitude. Once back at their cabin, Rowan retired to his room, leaving Ernesto and Penny alone in the living room. Exhausted but satisfied with another successful day at the shop, they sank into the comfortable sofa, sharing a moment of calm after the day's hustle and bustle.
Can you believe how fast the day went by?
Penny commented, reclining against the cushions with a sigh. Ernesto nodded, running a hand through his disheveled hair.
It's been a hectic but rewarding day. I'm proud of how we work together as a family to attend to all our customers.
He replied, a tired but happy smile on his face. Penny took Ernesto's hand in hers, intertwining her fingers with his.
We make a great team. By the way, any funny anecdotes from today?
She said, looking at him affectionately.
We certainly do, sweetheart.
He replied tenderly. Then, letting out a small laugh, he continued.
Actually, there was a rather curious situation. Remember that young wizard who was so excited about the selective memory potion? Well, it turns out he was so absorbed in the discussion about the books that he didn't even notice he had a frog climbing up his shoulder the whole time. It was quite comical to see his reaction when he finally noticed. Didn't you hear his scream?
Ernesto recounted, struggling to contain his laughter as he relived the scene. Penny laughed, picturing the scene in her mind.
Yes, I did hear it, though for a moment I thought another banshee had snuck into the shop. Poor boy. He must have been quite surprised.
She remarked, squeezing Ernesto's hand slightly in camaraderie.
That's exactly why I love our job, Penny. There's always something new and exciting waiting for us every day.
He responded, a spark of excitement in his eyes.
It's good to have moments like this, isn't it?
Penny commented, looking at Ernesto affectionately. The couple stayed silent for a moment, immersing themselves in the comforting tranquility of their home after a hard day's work. In the distance, the soft murmur of the river and the crackling of the fire in the fireplace filled the room with a sense of peace and serenity. The next day, they decided to take a well-deserved family rest. So they decided not to open the shop under the pretext of doing inventory. In reality, they intended to enjoy a day together without worries. Using the excuse of doing inventory, the three apparated to a vast green field, a quiet and secluded place where they could relax. Upon arriving at the field, they were greeted by Lyra, Rowan's charming girlfriend, who welcomed them with a warm smile. Rowan and Lyra decided to move away a bit for their own private picnic, leaving Ernesto and Penny alone to enjoy each other's company. Ernesto and Penny found a secluded spot under the shade of a leafy tree and spread out a blanket to sit on. As they shared a delicious picnic, they took advantage of the privacy to talk about their past experiences and share their deepest thoughts.
I remember when we started our potion shop, it was a great challenge, don't you think?
Ernesto commented, pouring some tea for Penny. Penny nodded with a nostalgic smile.
Yes, it was a time full of uncertainty, but also of exciting discoveries. I will never forget those early days when every new customer was an adventure in itself.
She replied, looking at Ernesto with affection. Ernesto took Penny's hand tenderly.
Do you still remember our first date?
Ernesto asked nostalgically.
Do you mean our romantic dance at the Celestial Ball? In the Great Hall of Hogwarts? Or our first date in general? When Tonks and Charlie arrived at Madame Puttyfoot's tea shop? And Tonks accidentally knocked over a large stack of teacups?
Both, actually, but I was referring more to our first date in general, though the teacup incident is hard to forget.
He responded with a soft laugh. Penny laughed, reliving the scene in her mind.
It was quite a mess, but it was also the beginning of something beautiful between us.
She commented, looking at Ernesto with affection. Ernesto nodded, moving a little closer to Penny.
It was the beginning of our love story together, full of adventures and unforgettable moments. And although there have been challenges along the way, I wouldn't change a thing. You were always my destiny, Penny.
He said, looking at Penny with love. Penny smiled, feeling a wave of gratitude for the love they shared. Ernesto and Penny looked at each other tenderly, feeling a deep connection. An irresistible impulse led them to lean towards each other, ready to seal the moment with a tender kiss. However, just as their lips were about to touch, a familiar voice abruptly interrupted them from behind.
Sorry to interrupt, Ibarra Vidari. I just wanted to make sure your son doesn't break my Lyra's heart,
said the voice with a sharp and familiar tone. Ernesto and Penny jumped in surprise, quickly separating and turning to face the person who had interrupted their intimate moment. To their surprise, they found themselves facing Marula Snide, an imposing figure with a piercing gaze, and an old rival and friend from their school years at Hogwarts. They greeted Marula with some discomfort. However, they decided to invite her to join them, trying to dispel any tension.
Hey Marula, would you like to join us for the picnic?
Ernesto trying to maintain a cordial tone despite the sudden encounter. Marula nodded in approval, though her expression remained somewhat serious and cautious. She joined them in the shaded spot under the tree, and for a moment they shared an uncomfortable silence while trying to find a common topic of conversation. As they shared the picnic, the three began to open up little by little, sharing anecdotes and memories from their days at Hogwarts. Ernesto and Marula recalled how their relationship started off on the wrong foot, with a confrontation during their first year at school that culminated in a magical duel, where Ernesto managed to disarm Marula with an Expelliarmus to protect his friend Ben Copper. However, despite that unpromising start, fate and some difficult circumstances led them to join forces and become close friends. Penny listened attentively and participated in the conversation about the history behind Ernesto and Marula's friendship, admiring how time and adversity had forged a solid bond between them, having witnessed the evolution of that relationship. As time passed, the tense atmosphere gradually dissipated, and the three began to genuinely enjoy each other's company. They laughed together, shared jokes, and supported each other. As the afternoon progressed and the sun began to set on the horizon, the tension of the initial encounter completely faded. Just then, Rowan and Lyra returned from their picnic, finding the group under the leafy tree.
Hi, how's everything going here?
Asked Rowan with a radiant smile, while Lyra nodded enthusiastically. Ernesto, Penny, and Marula greeted the couple cheerfully.
Looks like you've had an interesting afternoon,
Observed Lyra. Ernesto nodded with a smile.
Yes, it's been an afternoon full of surprises and stimulating conversations about the past.
Ernesto responded, glancing at Marula and then at Penny with gratitude. Lyra smiled.
Well, I'm glad to see everything's all right. Maybe we can organize a picnic together next time,
She suggested, with a playful look at Rowan. The young wizard nodded enthusiastically, excited at the idea of spending more time with family and friends. After a bit more animated conversation, they decided it was time to go. After exchanging cordial farewells, each group went their own way. Once again, Ernesto and Penny collapsed on the sofa in their cabin in front of the cozy fireplace, the crackling fire adding a comforting atmosphere to the room. Together, they recapped the day, sharing their reflections on the encounter with Marula and their conversations under the leafy tree. Ernesto sighed, reflecting on the ironic twist of fate that led his own son to fall in love with the daughter of his former Hogwarts rival. However, despite past adversities, he recognized that time and experiences had transformed his relationship with Marula into a solid and lasting friendship.
It's ironic to think how our lives are intertwined like that. But I suppose destiny has its own plans.
Commented Ernesto, looking at Penny with a reflective expression. Penny nodded, understanding the meaning behind his words. She knew how far they had come since their youthful days at Hogwarts, and how time had shaped their relationships in unexpected but significant ways.
Yes, it's amazing how things can change over time. I just hope that Rowan and Lyra's relationship is harmonious and enduring for both of them,
replied Penny with a note of hope in her voice. Ernesto smiled, recognizing the shared desire to see their son happy and fulfilled in his love life.
Yes, I hope so too. But whatever the future holds for them, I know we'll be here to support them every step of the way.
Ernesto affirmed, looking at Penny with determination. The couple stayed silent for a moment, basking in the comforting tranquility of their home after a day full of emotions. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed through the wooden door of the cabin's main entrance, making Ernesto immediately alert. Instinctively, he told Penny to stay behind him as he cautiously got up from the sofa and headed towards the door. With his heart pounding, He quickly opened the door, only to be met with the murky darkness outside and a thick fog that barely allowed him to see beyond his own nose. Then, a violent gust of wind slammed into the entrance, pushing Ernesto back into the cabin and extinguishing the fireplace in the process. With his wand in hand, he cast Lumos to light up the sudden darkness. It was then that he heard a soft sob, believing it to be from Penny. Desperate, Ernesto searched the entire cabin, but couldn't find any trace of Penny. His concern turned to panic as he rushed to Rowan's room, only to discover it filled with cobwebs and thousands of spiders, but no sign of his son or Penny. He slammed the door shut and shouted Penny and Rowan's names in a frantic attempt to find them. However, his cries were met with deafening silence. Suddenly, Ernesto felt an ominous presence behind him. Turning around, he found himself face to face with a dark, transparent shadow that began to scream so loudly it left him momentarily stunned. Before he could react, the shadow drew a wand and, in a rough and almost inhuman voice, uttered the words,
Avada Kedavra.
In the blink of an eye, a beam of green light enveloped him completely.